Hey everybody, my name is Mari Gruber and I'm an innovation researcher, and pretty much all I do is to think about the future and how to build a better world. And it might sound kind of cheesy, but it's really not. I mean, we already have built a much better world. You know, we humans, you and I, who live in the developed world in 2018, live lives more kingly than the lives of the richest of kings in any time in history. We might take our things for granted and might disagree here and there because we got our own problems. But when you reflect on this for a second, we have 1,000 times more music, books, art, 1,000 times more beautiful things to experience in life than any of the people in the past. When you think about our cavemen and women ancestors, they were sitting in their caves, cold and afraid and hungry, and they depended on, hunting some animals, and they usually died at the age of 30. And we have modern medicine. We can get vaccinated, walk right through diseases like gods. We can fly to the sky like gods at almost 1,000 kilometers an hour to some island at the other side of the world and relax on a beach once a year. That is an awesome story, really. I think it's the most awesome story. It's a story of human progress. Another question is, how can we make even more progress and improve things even more? For me, the question of how to change the world, how to make progress faster, is just the most important question of all time to think about and to work on. And not just to help old people or starving children or solve the world's problems, but it is literally even for you, the most important question. I'm telling you now. Even though you might not think it is and you think it is too big, but it is. Because whatever you care about, whether it is having more free time, traveling more, going for drinks more often, making money with your art and living off of it, or maybe it is, to help the environment, or even just to live in the woods. What all of these things that all of us want have in common is that they become easier and more likely the more progress we make. But in order for all of us to get these things that we want, we have to improve things, and in order to improve things, we have to change things. And if you want to change the world, you have to really understand the world. So in the most simple terms that you can draw what the world looks like, but still correct terms, is that let's put all the things that we have nowadays in our world on this one line. These are all the things that make our lives good in the developed world, that make our lives enjoyable. And for all these things, of course, we have to do certain things, So this is sort of like an input and an output matrix. And nowadays we have 100 times more than cavemen and women had, but they still worked the exact same amount, the same input, so to speak. And this is the most central and useful logic when thinking about how to make improvements in the world. It really is. Let's zoom in on you. The things you want and make you happy are here. Maybe it's going for drinks or going on more holidays or having a nice car. And in order to get them, you have to work to make money to spend on these things. And we have become really used to that. But in order to change things, in this case for the better, for improving your life and my life and everything, we have to think outside of these boxes. We have to zoom out and see the bigger picture. And this is really the key message here. And I think it adds a really fascinating dimension to life itself, to understand how the world works and to understand how maybe you can change things and to not just be a participant. And this is the main reason why we humans have created this incredible world in the first place, because we can think outside these boxes. We can understand the world better than all of these 8.7 million species of animals. They just follow their boxes, they do the same thing every single day, for thousands of years, and nothing ever changes. But we humans have the ability to do that. And this is where things become really interesting. It's about the fact that we humans can do things better, just better. And what do I mean by that? Why did I show you this sort of boring input-output matrix, which I said is the most important, logic to keep in mind when thinking about these things? Cavemen and women worked all day long, really from when they woke up until they went to sleep, with some breaks in between, I guess. And they only had 1% of what we have today. We have medicine, we have art, we live longer, we have all these things. Overall, we have 100 times more, 100 times. And we don't work more at all, you know, not to mention 100 times more. That's insane. Like, how on earth did we do that? Like, that is a $quadrillion question. It's not a $billion question. Forget cute little billions. It's a $quadrillion question. In one word, the way how we've done it, summarized in just one word, is innovation. As I like to define it, doing better things better. Somehow, in the last couple thousand years, we've created something, value, completely out of nothing. It's what I call a multiplier effect of innovation. But to understand what these things are that have the biggest multiplier effects, these improvements, requires a lot of thinking outside the structures that we are used to, and a lot of work, you know? They're extremely complex. Like, how to change things? We can come up with some great new technology that starts up in probably a couple of minutes, you know, but things are much, much more complicated than that. And I'm an innovation researcher. It's what I do all day long, is to think about how these improvements and innovations occur in the real world. It's a bit like going into sort of like a third dimension. And here's a really nice metaphor I like to use for that, which is we have a balloon, right? And so again, all these, you know, boxes and all the things that we want and that we do are basically on the surface of this balloon. Another question is how to make that bigger, you know? And we can talk all day about the things on the surface, just scratch the surface. But we'd have to pull this balloon in all different directions. It'd be extremely complicated to do that. So what I like to think about, instead of 1,000 different ideas, is just this one thing, how to just blow air into the balloon. Now we've just done one thing, and we've basically increased 1,000 things with one. We've killed 1,000 birds with one stone, so to speak. And just to clarify, so I don't sound like a crazy guy, what these things below the surface are. You know, usually when we talk about improving people's lives, we talk about things like taxes, like debts, like decreasing the unemployment rate. So people have more money, so they can buy the things that they want. That is the usual logic of what we talk about, and that follows that logic that I introduced earlier, of that input and output. But think about this, you know, a village 500 years ago could have had 0 taxes and could have had perfect employment, jobs for everybody, and life would have not been better. It is about decreasing inefficiencies and doing things better through science, through technology, but ultimately also because people act, because we as a society change. And this is where things become very complicated, but where they also become very interesting, because that's when we find the really good stuff. The things that blow your mind, the things that make you go, damn, you know what I mean? And that's what I want to show you with this project. The complex and really, really useful, the biggest multiplier effects in the history of mankind and for the next generation, but made simple. Thank you.